we got to be out this house by Wednesday, and I was wondering if you get some time, you'll be able to help us move some stuff this weekend, or like whenever I figure out what we gonna do. He was trying to get us out in 24 hours, but the judge was like, we'll give y'all till Wednesday.
Quentin Coleman, a DJ and musician, lives with his girlfriend, Darucha Saul, a software engineer in New Orleans. They haven't been able to work since the pandemic started and were late on July's rent, so their landlord had them evicted.
In 4 days, they expect you to find a new apartment, go to the water place, get new water, electricity, all of those stuff activated. And now you have to pay or pass through bills in order to open a new account. So it's almost impossible for someone that's unemployed.
When we was in the court, it was very brief. We didn't get to talk much, but the landlord was basically like, yeah, they've been expecting this. They know what's going on. And then I raised my hand. I was like, actually, can I speak? Nobody expected a pandemic. I honestly don't know, when I will be able to work again. The least thing I want to do is call my family and ask to stay with my mother or something. I'm 31 years old. Who wants to do that?
How does this make you feel seeing your city go through this?
I just can't believe they don't have a system for stuff like this when it happens. Rent should be froze. And keep in mind, we still have electric, water, and stuff that we have to pay. Those bills are also piling up.
The CARES Act, an economic stimulus bill passed by Congress in March, initially provided some relief for renters, including an extra $600 a week in unemployment. But that benefit expired at the end of July. The bill also includes a moratorium on evictions for those living in federal housing, or housing backed by federal mortgages. But this didn't apply to Coleman. It only protects 28% of all rental properties, and those protections will expire on August 24th, unless Congress acts. With those protections expiring and eviction courts across the country opening up again, experts fear that up to 28 million Americans might face eviction. How many people do you know that are kind of going through the same situation that you are?
I know a few people who already been evicted and already pretty much out of a home. People who not from here are pretty much moving back home. And people who are from here is just pretty much staying from pillar to post, friend's house, maybe on a couch here and there.
Are you worried this is the straw that's going to push you out of New Orleans?
Yeah, I thought about, is it worth staying in New Orleans longer? You don't have many rights as other places here.
New Orleans residents were already vulnerable to eviction. Rent is high, there's a lack of affordable housing, and even before the pandemic, the city's eviction rate was twice the national average, and nearly 4 times in some low-income, majority-black neighborhoods. Those numbers will get worse. Public defenders say they've seen their intake figures for eviction cases triple already. Local housing activist Frank Southall has never been busier.
We're just passing out flyers to let people know about their rights. Anyone facing eviction, have them hit us up.
I will definitely pass this along if I come across anyone.
Someone's just how can we be helpful? And we were put up signs, and they just made that.
But they're not affiliated with your organization? They're just handing your number out?
Yeah, because we're pretty much the only organization that helps people.
And when you talk to renters about their rights, are they oftentimes surprised at the rights that they do have?
Oftentimes people tend to think that the rights that we have as renters in this state, in this city, are that of other regions. So they'll watch some sitcom in which someone gets 30 days to move out of their apartment. That doesn't exist here. You can be evicted with 10 days notice. The only state that's worse than Louisiana is Arkansas. If a landlord illegally evicts someone, there's generally not much a tenant can do.
How many households in New Orleans right now are at risk of being kicked out of their homes?
There's something like 80,000 residents who are at threat of being evicted.
What are the fixes? What needs to be done to change the course?
Immediately right now, we need to reclose eviction court until there's additional funding. Long term, we need better laws. At the very minimum, we need 30-day notice of eviction. we need at least 10 days for the ability to pay rent before it's late. We need a cap on late fees.
Justice of the Peace Charles Cusimano handles evictions for the 5th District of Jefferson Parish. He says landlords, at least in his jurisdiction, are more willing than ever to work things out with their tenants. But when a case comes in front of his court, he says there's little he can do.
How much discretion do you have in an eviction case when it comes to time, that you give these folks?
None. The law is very clear. If I evict you, the tenant has 24 hours to be out. Otherwise, the landlord can file what's called a writ of ejection and have them put on the street.
Is it difficult for you to, put that 24-hour notice on someone being a situation where they've been trying to get work, but the pandemic
Absolutely.
has put them out?
No question, it is. There are some very sad cases to which maybe they're directed to Catholic charities, but I can't make the landlord. If the landlord says no, landlord gets their eviction.
The law doesn't take the pandemic into account.
The law has taken the pandemic into account, and it's written new laws to compromise and to work with that. The governor did an emergency order for 8 weeks where there were no evictions going on. I mean, everyone's taking into consideration as best they can. I don't make law. I enforce the law. Compassion is a wonderful word, but compassion is shown by following the law and not allowing your emotions to dictate.
Jackie Shahan experienced the harshness of the law firsthand. She was evicted in court in early July for non-payment of rent. Since she lives with her 2 adult sons and a daughter with severe disabilities, the judge gave her 2 weeks rather than 24 hours to leave her house in the Bywater neighborhood. She's been having a rough time with the move. You think that?
Yeah, I think she's like overwhelmed and stressed out. She's like a baby, so she's like a pacifier. She's always putting her hands in her mouth or always trying to get the top off of her bottle. Sure. She's got tricks. She's 25.
Yeah.
You got tricks? Hi, telling on you. I'm a cafeteria lady. When coronavirus hit, I lost my job. COVID is, it's like a curse that won't go away. And even though nobody in my house has been sick, and I'm thankful for that, it has been traumatizing. I absolutely have no income. My daughter hasn't received any type of stimulus check or any type of extra grant or benefits.
When did you know that you weren't going to be able to make rent?
I had already applied for renter's relief, but I eventually got denied for that services because I'm not on any public services. I had a court notice on my door to show up to court on June 6th. So I was being evicted for non-paying of rent. I said, I have $2,800 for you. We'll come up with a verbal agreement before we even go to court, and I could save my home. He said, I'll see you in court. I got to watch the judge evict 4 people prior to me, so my hopes were very low. So I'm panicking, and it's my turn. And then he says, okay, well, she's gonna give me $2,800. What about July's rent? Well, I didn't have July's rent. And he says, you know what, Your Honor? You just give her her money back, because I don't want to rent to her anymore. And the judge said, okay, so this Friday, I will have no place to go. I will be homeless with my daughter out on the street.
Shahan recently found a place to stay in Algiers, a New Orleans neighborhood on the west bank of the Mississippi, after someone heard about her situation and offered her a place to rent. But not everyone may be that lucky.
Realistically, what's going to happen to most of these people?
People who have access to families that they're connected with, they'll group up with their families. If their families haven't already gotten COVID, they're gonna get COVID. Younger people who contribute a lot to the city are gonna move away. So we need funding to keep people in their homes now. Otherwise, we're just gonna have a brain drain, a culture drain, and a lot more people sleeping underneath the bridge.
If you show it, who you could come to?
I'm gonna call you.
Okay.
I promise you.
If I can help you, I'm gonna help you. If you're hungry, you come over there. I got some white beans if you're hungry now with some cornbread. You heard me? I got something for you now.
Larry?
I'm gonna make sure you good.
We should chat about strategy to figure out a way to leverage the response and figure out if we could figure out some type of fundraising plan to help you.
That would be great.
Yeah,
That would be great. Because it's like, I never want to go through this again.
Yeah.
I'll probably drive by a family member's house and just check in on them. I'm so used to being alone and living alone that they probably like, I know he's not going to come and ask to stay here. And I'm not.
Yeah.
They know me. I'm not. But I can't stay under the bridge.
That's a no-no. I mean, we can't have you out on the streets. I will give you a call later on, and we're going to figure something out.
Thank you. This is the letter that I got. It says, per request of the owner, it's with our sincerest regrets due to the recurrent unsafe conditions of the building will close down effective August 1st, 2020. Therefore, the tenants that are still occupying the building will have to vacate the premises no later than July 31st. Basically, y'all telling us by the first of the month, y'all going to be under the bridge, but y'all need to be out of here. Even when y'all knew that this pandemic hit, y'all know ain't nobody working. Give us a whole lot more time.
What are you gonna do come July 31st?
I have not been at work since February. I've been trying everything. I've reached out to family, I've reached out to friends, but I don't have finances. I talked to this guy yesterday who has an apartment complex on Airline Drive. First thing he told me, he said, "Are you on unemployment?" I said, "Currently, yes, I am on unemployment." He said, "Well, call me when you're not on unemployment. When you get your job back, then you call me." I've never been homeless outside of Katrina. And even then, they put us in a shelter in Illinois.
So this is worse than Katrina.
This worse. And it shouldn't be. They knew that something was going on. I had to self-quarantine because when I went to the hospital, it was already too late. They was like, "We got so many people in the hospital." I'm like, you know what? I'll just go home.
So you already had COVID?
That's what I'm figuring because I was already going through the fevers, the tired, being drained, getting nauseated, and I'm like, something is wrong. My body don't do this. I'm a person I'm gonna get up and go. And all of a sudden, I wasn't able to get up and go anymore. Y'all tell us, don't go to work. If you sick, don't go to work. Okay, but who gonna pay our bills while we not going to work? Nobody's paying the bills. I'm in here, which I really don't want to be, but where am I gonna go?
You're damned either way.
They just want us out.
How has the lack of affordable housing in New Orleans impacted this eviction crisis that we're seeing now?
I mean, there's just nowhere to live. People like Mr. Emmanuel, he knows it would be very difficult to find a place that was equally as cheap.
If you are evicted and you go to apply for another residence, another apartment, say, what happens? Do they see that on your record, and does that go against you when you're trying to find a new home?
Yeah, 100%. One of the things that we're trying to figure out is how do we keep evictions off people's records during this crisis, especially as we wait for federal resources to come down. The other aspect that plays out too is that we know that even to this day, there's still a lot of racial discrimination. There's a lot of discrimination according to gender identity. People with records from being in prison, that they have incredibly difficult time finding housing.
Some people might say, okay, you didn't pay your rent for the past 3 months. Like, yeah, you should be kicked out. What would you say to them?
That's just absolutely garbage. People deserve a place to live at. Housing is a human right. How much money do we spend to imprison people? How much money do we spend to treat people for preventable diseases, preventable issues that could have been dealt with if they were housed? You think about COVID-19. Like, if we are going to evict all these people in our city and then they're housed in, like, crowded spaces, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we say housing is healthcare.